We're
Don't
back.
forget the bro. You're back.
Hi.
Don't forget that.
How have you been? A
I've been
lot
better.
of change. I can't
Uh,
believe since the last podcast, like, what has happened?
I know the world's gone into full lockdown.
Look at
Everywhere
us,
it's just dead.
remotely communicating.
Mm-hmm. It's the only way we could get this out there. The
I'm
only way.
grateful for the human connection, to be honest with you, Martin. It's getting
Mm-hmm.
quite peculiar. Not, don't know. You go to the shops and stuff like that, but you can't speak to anyone. It's scary.
I try to be honest, when I go to the shop, I try to talk to like all the people that work there as much as possible, just to get that bit of extra human interaction than just the people that you live with. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's really highlighting those little kind of interactions that you have on a day-to-day basis that you take for granted, like small
Mm-hmm.
talk and stuff like that. It's nice to kind of engage with people when you can, when it's appropriate.
Mm-hmm. That's it. When the law says you can.
I wonder what's going to happen, long term. It's all a bit in the air, isn't it, at the moment?
Well, they were saying that it's like, well, China has closed its gyms and restaurants again just because they think they might be getting a second wave.
Connection lost. We've lost Martin.
What? How have you lost me? I can see you.
Are we back? Can you hear
I
me?
don't. Yeah, I could hear you the whole time. You're like connection lost. We
It
lost
said
Martin.
connection lost on my screen. It says,
It's because it's your shitty McDonald's internet, mate. That's what it is.
but we'll have to persevere in this
That's
trying
right.
time.
Of course.
So, well, I think, a time like this is kind of as scary and ambiguous and uncertain as it is, we can kind of use this time, it's a good time to be watching films and kind of
to be productive in art.
Yeah, and having these long conversations about films and whatnot. It seems more appropriate. Maybe people have a bit more time to kind of listen to what we have to say. It'll be interesting.
What's this? Episode 10? Is that big 1-0?
This is double
big 1-0. This is double. We've done 10 episodes.
Oh,
it's been a long time. It's been almost a year since we first started our first podcast.
I know. In April, we had the most downloads that we've ever had. So I appreciate everyone listening for their continued interest. And we're nearing our 300th download, so that will hopefully coincide with our 10th episode. And, as the year progresses and we churn out more content, hopefully we're going to see more people paying attention. So this episode...
Let's get this going.
Yeah, number 10, I have tasked Martin with watching the 1982 Martin Scorsese directed film, The King of Comedy, featuring Robert De Niro, Jerry Lewis, and Diane Abbott. What did you think of it, Martin?
I thought first half an hour of the film, I thought it was quite sad, but then it's sort of like you could see as the film progresses that it turns into a sort of like a more sort of film that it's like he has one dream and all he is doing is to achieve that one goal. And obviously at the start it's very sad with the whole to me that's what I think.
The film is about a young man that Robert De Niro plays called Rupert Pupkin. And he is a stand-up comedian, an aspiring stand-up comedian with dreams of hitting it big. And he basically has a very strong will to bring his dream into manifestation, so he'll do anything to achieve that dream. And as the film goes on, you kind of see the extent of his will to achieve
to make that dream come alive.
To achieve what he wants to achieve, and he ends up kind of committing many crimes and doing many immoral things in the name of making a name for himself. Which,
But at least,
you know,
at least he tried. Like at the beginning, he tried to go, or like try to go, so he didn't have to use force to make this happen. Do you know what I mean? At least he tried to do it the right way instead of it being what happened in the film. Do you know what I mean?
I think it's quite a divisive film in the sense that you emote with Rupert Pupkin throughout the film, even though like he's doing unlikable things. There's a part of you that's almost kind of rooting for him, and this is where you kind of see this crossover between this film and the Joker, Todd Phillips film that was released last year. That, you know, crazy success, and it did really well, but there's lots of homages to the King of Comedy, and Martin Scorsese was originally attached to the Joker film, and then kind of his name was removed from it, but you can like feel his presence in that film. And I think, did you watching King of Comedy like get that vibe, like you felt the same sort of themes running through King of Comedy?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, like I thought, because the Joker was a film that was sort of made in the same sort of way as the King of Comedy, but in a superhero, in a villain sort of way. You sort of knew that with the Joker, there's gonna be a scene where something bad happens. Do you know what I mean?
It's all they both have like a sense where it's like building up to something. Definitely felt that throughout the two films.
That's it. Yeah, that's it. Even though in like the King of Comedy, it didn't when it hit the peak of it, it didn't seem like it was gonna go that way. It was gonna go a different way. Obviously, as you're going through the film, you see that it sort of feels like he's having a mental breakdown. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, well,
he's talking to himself.
It's a tightrope walk throughout the whole film, kind of like the Joker. You're like, oh, this guy keeps kind of coming up against barriers. People are giving him more and more shit. Eventually, he's going to snap, and that obviously, the Joker and King of Comedy are 30 years apart, and the Joker's very much made for the 1920s. Made for the 2020s, our sort of generation. It speaks to the young person that's feels like it's all against them and whatnot. Whereas
struggling.
And the King of Comedy, I think it speaks that same message, but it's appropriate to the audience of 1982. It's more about the stand-up comedy, the dream back then, like pre-internet. The idea of going on a late night talk show, that was like the dream. That's like the height of, like, there's no YouTube, you don't go on Hot Ones, you don't like do any of this other press that exists now. So that's like the attitude of Rupert Pupkin. He just wants to make it as a star, and going on that TV show is in his head. If I'm on that show, I am a star. Therefore, I have to make that happen any way possible.
Even now, to be honest, like that way of thinking that he has is still like hard to find in these days. Do you know what I mean? Like it's more like everyone can be famous easily because of the internet. Do you know what I mean? Like, time.
Yeah, I think that's why the film kind of is relevant and has kind of lasting power, is because with the YouTube generation, we've seen like a whole generation of Rupert Pupkins, all these like people doing silly things to get famous. It's on a smaller scale, and it's not that they're all little storms in teacups, these little YouTube sensations, but I can't believe Scorsese was like so on the pulse of what was to come back in like 1982. This is the first Scorsese film I think we spoke about on the podcast.
Yeah,
well.
I think so. There hasn't been any more Scorsese. I would have definitely known, but This is
He's
the
an
first
interesting
one.
director, and there's
Yeah.
like a lot of films that he's known for, like your Goodfellas and your Wolf of Wall Streets and your Casinos and stuff like that. But
Hmm.
this is kind of like well, since the Joker's come out, it's seen a revival in popularity. But in terms of like his whole filmography, it's a fairly underrated film.
Is it?
Yeah, it's not one that people talk about.
Which is, to be honest, like, there's not going to be a lot of people talking about, oh, well, look at that little guy. We should make more people famous because of this film. Do you know what I mean? So maybe that's why people aren't so watching it, or because people think they can't relate to it. They're like, oh no, that ain't me. I'm gonna be doing this. I'm gonna be doing that. I'm not gonna be kidnapping no one to be famous. Blah blah blah. I've got talent. You know what I mean? Like they don't
Well, it's
think.
very true, but like I think the reality of it, like I think you're right. People would probably relate more to like Scorsese's films like The Wolf of Wall Street or
Hmm.
Goodfellas. But I find that so silly because the people that like those films aren't gangsters and they can't relate to
No.
that life. They aspire to have that life, but they can't
Yeah.
relate to it. Whereas they're probably closer to Rupert Pupkin in
That they.
mindset than they are to
Mhm.
anyone in like Wolf of Wall Street and stuff like that. So
That's why it's underrated, because they're like, oh
yeah,
no, it's not gonna be me. It's not gonna be me. It's not gonna be me. And you're like, well, it probably is you right now, but you're not. You don't wanna. You don't wanna
yeah, you can't
tell
see
yourself.
that.
Yeah. You don't. You
It was
can't see that yourself.
difficult to admit you're a Rupert Pupkin.
Exactly. Yeah. So
And,
it's probably why it's underrated, to be honest.
but he's got like, we'll do some other Scorsese films at some point. He's got one called After Hours that I would say is probably more underrated than this, and I'd say it's
After
better
Hours.
than this. It's
I've
like his version
I've
of Eyes
heard
Wide
it.
Shut.
After Hours. I've heard it, but I'm not sure
I,
if I've
I'm
seen it.
pretty sure I spoke to you about it before. He made it
Probably.
for TV. I think it's a really like kind of small budget, different film, but it's just about this like guy who everyone in his life starts like turning against him, and it's like this bad nightmare, and it's a great film. But again, nothing like you what people expect from Scorsese.
Hmm. No,
So,
nothing gangster is gonna be like completely normal. It's
well,
it's
it's not
polar
even normal, but
opposite.
it's just not that whole like gangster vibe that he puts in a lot of his films.
Hmm.
He has a lot of films that are just like nothing to do with that. He's
Hmm.
certainly an interesting director. What would you say? What was your favourite scene?
What would be my favorite scene? Um, it'll probably be when I actually got to see his act near the end. You know, when he finally shows his act
Jerry
to
Lewis.
that girl. Yeah, no, to that girl. What's her
Oh,
name?
I've not seen it in a second. Is that
Ah, it's that black woman. I can't remember her name. Like you said her name in her real name.
what Rita?
Yeah.
Diane Abbott. Yeah, Diane Abbott's character, the
Hmm.
bartender. The love interest of
Yeah.
Rupert.
Hmm. That was
So
probably my favorite scene. Like when you actually got to see his whole like skit.
yeah, and if I recall correctly, it's quite good, isn't it? Like he's like
Yeah.
committed.
Yeah,
He's
it's
like
quite
fully
good.
committed to
Yeah.
the role, and he's
Hmm.
very
Like
and
no one believes in him, but like, well, the person who introduces him is like, I can't be reading this. This is garbage. And then everybody else around him is like laughing. It's like, yeah, it's good because
I think
it is
there's
good.
there's a certain like self confidence that I think as like an artist or a person that does something creative, you have to have in yourself, because like if you don't like yourself, like no one's gonna like
Hmm.
you apart from other people that don't like themselves. But cultivating a large audience of people that don't like themselves isn't ideal in the long run, I think. So I think Rupert Pupkin's attitude definitely speaks to the mindset of creative people, but also speaks to that fine line between like like being a genius and being absolutely insane. Like it's a very fine line.
Yeah, oh yeah, it's very, very thin. Just because even going through the film, you see, it just feels like he's going insane, and like it's gonna be, to be honest, what happened, what he did, compared to like what I thought in my head was gonna happen, was completely different. It was completely different. I thought there was gonna be. I didn't think it was just gonna turn himself over. I thought he was gonna have like some sort of master plan, and he'll get away with it. And
well, he knew that the bad press that he'd get from being in jail would be the springboard that would make him a worldwide star. Like
and it did.
Yeah, and on paper, really, what this film's about is one day Rupert Pupkin decides I'm going to be famous, and then he makes it happen. Like he very successfully pulls off the thing that he wants to do at the beginning of the film.
He tries to do it legit at the start. You know what I mean? Like talking to obviously the biggest person in his field of the dream he wants to do.
It breaks your heart because he's really trying.
Yeah, he's trying his hardest, and every turn they just turn him down. Every fucking junction, it's just no, you're blocked. Do you know what I mean? So then he's had to go for extreme measures.
You know what I'm saying? Television studio, and he like waits.
He just sits there. It's like, that's what I'm saying. It's kind of sad because like, although he's like joking about it, he's like, oh, talking to himself, having a good time with this, like all this shit happening. Then all he does is like go to that guy's TV station and keep asking for him, and keeps like being like, oh, I'll just wait. I'll wait till Monday. I don't care. I'll wait a whole week if I have to. I'll sit right here. Do you know what I mean? Like he's trying his hardest, and then it's so sad when
my favorite. Oh, carry on.
Like it's so sad when he goes. He takes his love interest.
This is my favorite scene when they go to his house, and she like he picks it up to her that like they're gonna have this meeting, and he knows him, and it's all fine, and you got the amount of emotion I felt for her being there, like she thinks that he's this thing, and she's like, oh my god, he's treating me, and like I'm like this is going to be a special day for me, and then she gets there, and it's just not what like it sold her.
No, exactly. I was like, I fell for the, like as I was watching, I was like, oh, I can't watch this. This is horrifying. Imagine that happening to you as a person. You're like, holy shit, what the fuck? But then on the
flip side, there's something endearing about like Rupert Pupkin's attitude of being like, I'm just going to I know where this dude lives, like I'm going to turn up at his house, and if I act like it's normal, he might like just roll with it. Like,
that's what's exactly what?
Crazy. To have that thought process and be like, yeah, that's going to work. Like, that's a good idea. It's crazy.
But that, I feel like I do that sometimes. I know it's not with like somebody famous or somebody that like I don't know, but I just go, fuck it, let's go with the flow, see what happens, turn up at a house, whatever. You know what I mean?
Well, there's a thing to that attitude. There's a good Steve-O from Jackass of all people. He has a story where at a young age there was a band he really liked called Motley Crue, and they were playing in his town, and he knew the managers. I think this story's going to be correct. He knew the hotel where they were staying, and he knew the manager's name. So he rang the hotel up and asked for the manager's room because he knew the name, and he got through. And like he was talking to them on the phone, and they were like, yeah, come on down, you can be like backstage and stuff like that. And this was like when he was like 10 years old, and he just did it because he was like, well, it makes sense. I know the hotel where they are. I know the manager's name. Why not try? Like,
exactly. Yeah. That's exactly Rupert Pupkin sort of attitude towards everything that he was doing.
And I guess I should point out that the guy that Rupert Pupkin ends up kidnapping is, what's he called in the Jerry Langford.
Jerry
But he's
Langford, yeah.
played by Jerry Lewis, and Jerry Lewis is a kind of a comedian, a entertainer, but from back in like the 1950s, 1940s. You know, Dean Martin, Ain't That Kick in the Head?
Yeah.
Him and Dean had like an act together back in like the 40s and 50s. They came up together,
Really?
Dean and Jerry. Like that was how they got famous, and so him playing that role is very much like Robert De Niro playing that chat show host role. It's very like passing the torch.
Oh, yeah. So, okay, yeah, I see where you're coming from, because you sort of see the transition, like when he plays in the Joker.
Yeah, and obviously that is Rupert Pupkin, and now he's the
Yeah.
host. It's sick. It's really like the connection between the two is mad.
Now I want to know what was that guy? What was the guy's name in the Joker that presented that show?
What was his what was Robert De Niro's character's name?
Yeah, look it up.
I'll find out.
Because if maybe it's just a thought in my head, maybe his name is an anagram for Rupert Pupkin. Who knows?
Murray Franklin, Rupert Pupkin, Murray Franklin. You can see it even says on Wikipedia, De Niro says his role in Joker pays homage to his character from the king of comedy, Rupert Pupkin, who is a comedian obsessed with a talk show host.
Mm-hmm. But it didn't end as bad as that, I guess.
Well, I mean, you got to think like 1982, like what? Okay, John Lennon had been shot, but we hadn't had like Columbine, and we hadn't had like where culture got a lot more extreme in the time between King of Comedy and Joker in terms of like some of.
Yeah, it was more at that time. It was more like hush hush about violence. Do you know what I mean? Like,
well, I just think everyone has like a phone in their pocket now and a camera and stuff like that, and you can go on the internet and watch like any range of the awful things that happen on the planet. Whereas in like 1982, no
one wants to hear that.
Well, all you'd have access to is like what the news and the television was like had to offer you, and you'd read like there'd be like magazines for fringe topics and like weird kind of like hobbies and stuff like that. But pre-internet, it's just a different world.
Pre-internet, well, we were born, it was a different world, to be honest.
Well, I think there'd be people out there like born in the 80s that'd be laughing at me, but I do feel lucky to be born in 94. Remember being in like my first year of school and like doing stuff on floppy disks, and like definitely remembering like dial-up internet and having to sign into AOL and MSN and LimeWire and all of that. I remember MySpace coming. I remember like, the record industry fucking crashing in like 2005 because illegal downloading was like off the charts. And then I remember
LimeWire.
Yeah, and Spotify coming around and being like, what, all the music for like free? That sounds ridiculous. This is never going to take off. And
look at it now. Obviously, I always thought that was going to take off because free music. Oh, of course that was going to happen. I knew it.
It sounded way too good to be true when someone first told me about it. I remember because you'd spend time like scouring the internet for certain songs that like were hard to find and stuff like that. And I'd go to like the car boot at Croft and like there'd been CDs there that I'd only have read about on the internet and stuff like that. But then someone comes to me and they're like, oh yeah, there's this thing called Spotify and it just has all the music. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like,
shut up.
But hey, here we are.
I remember using YouTube Converter to get a song on my phone to make it my ringtone.
Sometimes it's just easy to do that. Like if you just quickly need a song for something, you just grab the old YouTube Converter and.
I can't believe that's still going on, to be honest.
I guess torrents are like the name of the game now for you.
Well, yeah, torrents is the new LimeWire. That's what that is.
I miss LimeWire.
I don't. I'd rather have all my music on my phone pay £10 a month and get it all for free.
Oh, but it was
All I
like a
need.
lucky dip. It was like a raffle. Like you'd go looking for something,
No, it's disgusting.
you get something completely different.
I remember just searching for films that I wanted and always getting porn. Always. Always. There was always
like
of it.
Green Day new song, and it would come up with like girl with green hair loves it all day or something like that.
Yeah.
You're like, well, I don't like ask for that like at all.
Oh, Jesus.
And then I remember like having an iPod Classic and like downloading Superbad back in like 2007, but it was like filmed in the cinema. Like someone had it filmed it in the cinema, and I was watching it on an iPod Classic, and it was like, so you'd wait for like 3-4 days for it to download. The computer was on for like 3 days straight, and you come home every day from school and be like, oh god, it only did 18%. And eventually it downloaded, and it was just awful quality. But it was the best of times. It was the worst.
The worst of times. Yeah. What was your favorite scene in the film?
Well, I just said the one where he takes her to the house.
Oh, really? That's your favorite scene?
Yeah, just like it's endearing. The amount of gall Rupert Pupkin has to think that is a legitimate situation that he could have like pulled off. Like that's ambition. I respect. It's such a stupid situation.
Did you have a feeling? Well, when I first saw her getting into the house, I saw her had a Marilyn Monroe feeling because of her dress. You see how her dress was?
Yeah, as I say, I've not seen it in a hot second,
but yeah, she had a
impress him, doesn't she? Because it's like a date situation. He tells her it's a date.
Like, I never thought what was gonna happen
to a girl, like being like, I'm gonna take you on a date, and you go to this guy's house. Like it's the audacity.
He's got massive balls. Is what that is. That's some big balls right there.
It's one of those things where like you call him an idiot for the whole film, but then you realise at the end of the film he got what he wanted, and you're like, oh, okay, am I the idiot? What happened? Like, is he a good person?
What I thought was gonna happen in that house scene, it was like, because obviously when he first came in, that when Jerry first came in, you saw him look at the girl, and he was just sort of stunned. And I'm guessing it was by her beauty. Do you know what I mean?
But Rupert managed to acquire someone of such beauty.
So you're sort of thinking like, what is happening? So I thought it was gonna be more like, why are you with this guy? You should be with me. Blah blah blah. The ending of the film was, in my head, was so different to what it actually was. I liked it better how it actually ended than what I thought was gonna happen in my head. You know what I mean?
See his long-awaited autobiography, King for a Night.
What?
Yeah, at the end you see his autobiography, like he writes the book.
Yeah. A King for a Night. The King for a Night. I swear is what it said.
He always calls himself the King of Comedy. And my name is Rupert Pupkin.
When he first like fucking sneaks into the studio after kidnapping Jerry, he's sort of like, I'm the king. You're looking for me. I'm the king. I'm like, what? The king? All right, you're when he talks to that film. I don't know. I'm guessing like the video producer or whatever. He says, yeah, on the set, he's like, I'm the king. Is that, well, thank you, Your Majesty. Would you like some tea and crumpets? I had to laugh. I was laughing so hard at it. I was like, such a good joke, such a good time for the joke.
And he's like, well, he's just like in charge of the city. Like he's on a set that's something that would normally like intimidate any regular person that like off the street. But Rupert Pupkin like walks around that environment like he's like king of the palace because he's been thinking of it for so long.
So long. It's like embedded in his cells that he's gonna be the king of comedy.
He's planned it all out.
He's planned it out, and it's exactly what we're gonna do. We're gonna kidnap somebody really rich and go to jail.
I think it's like, I don't know, played out now, especially now the Joker's come out.
Yeah. You couldn't do it now.
Problems.
Yeah,
no,
you couldn't do it now.
The connotations, you know, of what has happened with the character of the Joker over the years.
Mm.
It's actually very true. I hadn't even thought about like the whole Heath Ledger Joker shootings thing in relation to the Todd Phillips Joker film. Like that's quite like a bold fucking move. Because didn't someone shoot up a cinema dressed up as the Joker just after The Dark Knight Rises?
I'm not sure.
I think that was like a big deal. I feel like
no, there wasn't a guy.
Here it is, James. Yeah, this is the dude. He had orange hair. And what was his deal? It's got something to do with Batman, I remember it.
It's always got to do something with Batman. Batman is the only superhero. Is the Batman and Batman's probably the only superhero that people will relate more to. I would say Tony Stark, but Tony Stark has got a fucking iron suit. So
why do that's so lame that people can only relate to the superheroes that aren't actually like superheroes? Like Tony Stark and Bruce Wayne are the only two that they don't have any powers. They just like have good technology around them and a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas like, the Hulk and Superman, they're like mutant people. Like if they walked into the room, you'd be like, you are like abnormal. Just turned green.
Yeah, but like Superman is an alien, so like he can't really help it. The Hulk did that to himself. Bruce Banner did that to himself.
It's an interesting concept, the whole superhero thing, and why we've like developed the idea of superheroes, and they're like, because don't know before superheroes there were like cowboys. That was like the big thing in movies that like kids, young boys would want to be. They'd look up to like John Wayne and like him walking through the desert with his gun and shit, and like that would be what they looked up to and be like, oh, I want to be like them. They're like that.
I guess it
was as like the science fiction thing started in like the early 1900s that we started to see this idea of like the Superman, and there's a philosopher called Nietzsche that came up with the word Übermensch, which means Superman.
Yeah, in German, ain't it?
Yeah, and he saw that as like, if we as a race keep trying to like get better and better, that's like what we're trying to do with like technology and science and healthcare. We're constantly trying to like get better and like get rid of disease and age and stuff like that. We're effectively going to become Superman. Like that's like the end goal. That was his like whole. That's why he came up with the term Superman.
But yeah, I guess that. Okay, yeah, that's all true, but I feel like the reason the superheroes came along, it was more for it's always got to do with children. It's always got to do with children.
Well, I know that Stan Lee definitely took that idea of like the Übermensch and made Superman. I've seen him like talk about it and shit, so he's definitely aware of all of that, and he just took the end result of the concept, like the Superman, and cut out the middle bit of like changed the middle bit. He like made him an alien, made him from a different planet, and all of that, added the backstory in, and then you've got this idea of this Superman.
Wait, what? Stan Lee?
Oh, I might be dead wrong. Is fucking
Stan Lee's Marvel.
Yeah, Superman's
DC.
Hang on, let me find the connection between the. I've seen it.
Because that.
It wasn't Stanley. It was Jerome Siegel. The comic book Superman, when Jerome Jerry Siegel first created him, was originally a villain modeled on Friedrich Nietzsche's idea. He was reinvented as a superhero by his eventual designer Joe Shuster after he bore little resemblance to the previous character. However, Superman does find an adversary in the mold of Nietzschean Übermensch in the reoccurring arch-villain Lex Luthor, his greatest enemy on Earth.
Yep. He's the only person who's trying to become Superman. Or make an army of Supermen.
And that's really fucking interesting. And it's all based on this like 1800 fucking philosophy stuff. And now it's like the biggest franchise in the world, like all the superhero stuff. It's really taken over. And weirdly enough, I don't know why I remembered that Shooter was into Batman, because it's only mentioned like once on his Wikipedia page. It's just a small thing that says that he was a fan of superheroes, including Batman, and decorating.
And was he dressed as a clown? Because I remember the shooting, but he wasn't dressed as a clown.
A
cinema
showing
shooting
of The Dark Knight. I bet you can still hear me, but my connection's gone. Did you hear
I can still, yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm back.
It was.
I'm sure.
Yeah, it was on that premiere that he started shooting people, but he wasn't wearing a Joker outfit. He just threw a grenade.
But even so, like my original point is like that Joker film, the Todd Phillips one, speaks to that. Yeah, it was at the midnight screening of The Dark Knight Rises. The way that Rupert Pupkin had that whole thing like planned out, it's how I've seen like the Columbine shooting, and they plan it all out in their head because they've got all this resentment based upon like how the world's been treating them, and every day it's like another bad thing happens to them, and it's just another like peg up the ladder to them breaking and like snapping. And that whole process you see in the Joker film up to the point where he eventually snaps, and he's constructed this like vision of how it's all going to go down, and all
how he wants it to go down.
Yeah, and then it does, because they are so strong-willed, it ends up happening, and it's terrifying.
That's the power of that's willpower. That's having.
You froze again, but I'm assuming what you said was that's the power of the mind. The power of the mind is not a joke.
Once you get it in your head that you want something, it will happen. So what do you want, ølund? What do you want?
I want, Martin, for this to all work out, I want everyone to get through this trying time with their psyches intact. And
is that
me personally, I'm enjoying this time and utilizing it to the best of my ability.
But is that what you really want yourself?
I want to achieve my artistic vision.
You will do it.
Thank you, Martin.
I saw this. It was quite a long time ago, but I saw this video of a guy saying what you become what you think of yourself. So if you keep thinking of yourself as a failure, you will always be a failure. But if you always think of yourself,
there's a lot of talk, law of attraction stuff, and kind of it's like a planet, and you're like a black hole, and you pull things in around you, and they like affect your life. You're like a planet. You pull things into like your gravitational pull, and it all has to do with who you were surround yourself with, and the values and the ideologies that you surround yourself with, and the media, and it just depends how much you care about all that stuff as well. You know, some people don't at all, and it's not. But I think it's like a soup. You'd only want to put good ingredients into your soup, wouldn't you, Martin? Why would you like put stuff that's gonna soil the soup?
True that. But so it could always go wrong. So you could think you're trying. You could think you might think you're putting good stuff in.
Well, that's why you have to do a lot of research about like wholesome organic ingredients, and you know, find out where the good ingredients come from, and where the real source. You don't want stuff with those like pesticides sprayed on it. You don't want anything that's going to soil the soup, man. It's just about you know, doing your research and working it out for yourself.
So it's basically do the research before you do anything.
Could you live in the woods?
You what?
Could you live in the woods?
No.
Well, there you go.
Could you live in the woods?
Yeah.
You think so?
Definitely. I'm not saying that I wouldn't go through some trials and tribulations in the woods. I think anyone, you know, you're going to come up against stuff you're not going to expect, but I'd give it a good go. I'd have gusto.
But you have to do this research first. You have to do the research. Don't forget that.
Well, I feel like I'm at a point where I could attempt living in the forest. I feel like I've done ample research. Not that you can always do more research, Martin. You know.
Exactly. You can never be too prepared. Exactly. You can never be too prepared.
A good offense is a good defense.
You mean a good defense is a good offense?
I think it works both ways.
Yeah. Either way, it works. Either way.
You know, I'm liking this remote podcasting thing.
I'm enjoying it, to be honest.
It's pretty.
We should do some more.
Definitely. We'll have a conversation once we've finished this, and we'll set up another film.
Let's do this.
Because I think, you know, hopefully this
end points of this film.
Hopefully this is like a time when people will be more inclined to listen to like long form conversations like this. So, but yeah, in terms of like wrapping up this film, I've made you watch it because it's one of, in my opinion, Martin Scorsese's better films, one of his best films, and it's not one that gets too much hype compared to some of his other films that I like, part of pop culture in a massive way. But I think it's more relevant today than I don't personally like relate to Goodfellas or Casino or like Wolf of Wall Street. Watching those films is entertaining 100% because people are acting outlandish and acting upon their impulses, and it's something you don't see every day. But in terms of
nothing you can relate to. Nothing.
Yeah, in terms of like a piece of art that speaks upon culture and remains relevant, the king of comedy is still, I think it still feels fresh. I don't know about you, but it like the concept of it and the idea feels as fresh as it probably did when it came out in 1980.
Oh yeah, the whole meaning behind it, how whenever you put your mind into to do something, you will achieve it no matter what. It's ongoing, and it'll probably be going on for years and decades, fucking hundreds of years to come. Do you know what I mean?
Ultimately, it's a film about will and morals, and you have to, if you're going to have a strong will, then you have to align your morals with that, or something like bad could happen in the way that you go about achieving what you want to achieve. So if you don't have good morals but a strong will, then you're probably going to become quite a dangerous person. But Rupert Pupkin, a very kind of polarizing character.
Do you have any other thoughts on the film? Like, how it ended, how it started? Do you have any like closing statements?
Yeah, I just think that the journey of Rupert Pupkin and his desire to achieve his vision is a polarizing and compelling journey.
And entertaining. Don't forget entertaining.
Fun
It's
fact
always-
to end on is that the band The Clash are actually in that film. Really
Who?
quickly. Oh, you won't know you'll know some songs by The Clash, but they're like a punk band from the 70s, but they're just in this film, just very quickly.
Where?
It's a shot of them on the street, because it's all shot in like New York, isn't it? And there's like quite a few shots like on the street. I think if I really think about it, I think it's just before or after he goes to the television studio and sits there and waits there to try and meet Jerry Langford.
Jerry Langford, yeah.
And there's like punks on the streets, and they're like famous people. The Clash.
I think I remember that scene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's around there. But yeah, that's why I made you watch the film, and I'm glad that you felt.
I enjoyed it a lot.
I'm glad you mutually agreed with me about kind of the relevancy of it today and how it connects to the Joker, and it's a really interesting film. I highly recommend anyone listening goes out, and if you haven't already, check out The King of Comedy.
Tell us if you have any other points that you'd like to share.
But I thank you all for listening, and it's a tough time for everyone, but me and Martin are going to kind of be here to maybe help you through it. So we're going to be watching loads more films, and hopefully maybe start doing one of these a week.
Yeah, let's do it. If you guys have any sort of points that you'd like to discuss with us, put them in the comments. Let us know. We'll reply to everything you guys text us.
We have like text us. Like, we have so many outlets of social media. Why did you say text? Like,
a message, comments. What? It's all the same thing.
MIPL. Instagram,
it's all the same thing.
Facebook, Twitter, MIPLTD. Hit all that up. Don't text us. That's a crazy.
If they're on Instagram and they do something, what are they gonna do? Message us? And what's a message? Is that a text?
Oh, we're getting bogged down in semantics.
Don't give me that shit. You're getting down in semantics.
In this time of limited communication, I have really enjoyed speaking to you, Martin. The human, great
me too.
Human connection, and I agree with the sentiment of what you're saying. Anyone that wants to get in contact, we're kind of going to be a bit more free with what we talk about on here now, just because it's just nice. It's just nice to chat to you, Martin, isn't it? We're going to watch the film, we'll chat about some topics and what's going on in the world. Just keep it.
See what's happening.
Free and easy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've loved speaking to you, brother.
Good.